So I had this idea when I was doing my 5 films that are more disturbing than a Serbian film, where I was going to kind of show my live reactions to some of the sequences in these movies. Well, I stepped away from it due to time and everything, but just seeing how much love and support you guys gave that last video, I thought I would revisit it, but I was a bit worried because some of those films from the last video are absolutely insane, and I was like, are these ones going to live up? Oh, especially if this is real. I don't know. Hang on. Ah, there it is, isn't it? Yeah, I knew that shit was coming. Just do it, brother. Just fucking kill the guy. Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome back to another video going over the disturbed, the depraved, and of course the nastiest movies I can find. This time we are tackling Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom. We are looking for 5 films that are, yes, more disturbing, in my opinion, than this infamous masterpiece of disturbing cinema. Yes, many people know Salo just like they know a Serbian film, so I knew when I started this series I was going to have to tackle the big dogs, and this is the number 2 for many of you. But I couldn't do it by myself. No, this time we have a sponsor for the video. So yes, even if YouTube decides, hey, this is too gross and you guys don't deserve to make a little money off of your suffering, the sponsor has us covered. So I'm going to bump it over to them and we'll hop right into the list. Hey, what's going on, guys? Dylan here. Just wanted to let you know that we have a very special sponsor on the channel now. Yes, the good folks over at AKR Projectors have partnered with us to talk about some of their upcoming and current products. More specifically, what I have for you guys today is the portable mini projector. Yes, this thing, I gotta admit, I was a little skeptical when they first sent it over. I was a little bit like, been seeing these all over TikTok, been seeing them all over YouTube, but I gotta say, after hooking this thing up and actually playing with it for a couple of weeks, I don't know what I would do without it. We're always just chasing and trying to get that theatrical experience at home. Well, I'm here to tell you the best way that you can do that is by getting into the projector game. And for those of you who've never owned a projector, who are just trying to get your feet wet, I gotta say, this thing is the best place to start. Not only is it super portable, super sleek, but it also is very easy to set up. I had this thing ready to go with apps downloaded in about 5 minutes, and that's my all-time favorite piece to this, guys, is the fact that this thing has its own operating system in it. So yes, you can access the Google Play Store and get all of your favorite streaming apps. We got Shudder, we got Screambox, we got everything under the sun at our disposal for this projector. And don't worry, if you're a quality nut like myself, this baby does come with the hookups and the ability to project in 4K using any of your favorite devices, everything from your favorite game console to your most prestigious Blu-ray 4K players. So yeah, this thing, you kind of can't lose with it. I really found myself going head over heels in love with it, and I really think if you're looking to spice up your movie watching experience at home, this bad boy is a great place to start. Definitely use our affiliate link down below. Check out AKR Projectors TikTok shop. They've got a lot of great products on there as well, multiple different projectors, but if you're just looking to get in on the ground floor, this is definitely the best one to start with, and our link will go directly to it. You'll get it in just a few days, and I promise you, you will not regret it. This thing is super fun. It makes my life super easy, and yeah, honestly, just having a projection of the films you're wanting to watch and what we're talking about up on my ceiling, my wall, or even the projector screen my wife and I just invested in, it's changing the game for us here. So definitely thank you again to AKR, and we hope that you guys will take a look at this and pick one up for yourself. And kicking things off at my number 5 spot, we have 1974's Sweet Movie. After winning the Most Virgin contest, Miss Canada is married to a rich milk tycoon, but she quickly flees the marriage to experience the world around her, full of sweetness and anarchy. Sweet Movie was kind of a tough one for me, because not only does this predate Salo in its release and making, but I think that it's probably the most akin to that film. And I only say that because it's kind of this surreal strange, I guess you'd want to say alternative universe in a way, and that's a lot of how I look at Salo. I know there are some true events sprinkled throughout that film, but for this, it's one of those things where this movie is just so weird and out there. It feels like a mixture of Salo and A Clockwork Orange in a lot of ways. And you definitely get a lot of the disturbing stuff in this, but not in the way that you think. I actually have to praise this movie for not really leaning too hard on the violence. Yeah, a big portion of Salo is there's a lot of violence against, our characters, the people in that film. But for this one, it's more or less just a lot of making you feel uncomfortable, putting you in these very weird, artsy kind of, art house film scenarios. And for the first half, I thought, this is nothing. Like, this is not going to make it on this list. And then as the film progresses, we get a lot more into essay stuff. We get a lot more into things like the gross use of sweet foods, non-sweet foods. There's a lot of fecal matter and vomit play, which is huge in Salo. It's also very big here.
Ugh. Oh, don't do that. Oh, bro, why? Why?
And yeah, it's disgusting. It really did get me kind of cringing and queasing at a lot of points. I was not very thrilled to be witnessing a lot of this, as most of us won't be when it comes to that kind of stuff. I mean, this is very much like a fetish movie, but I have to at least say that it is the most movie that I've seen out of these lists so far, because it's definitely got more of a story it's going for. And overall, I gotta say, this was, again, something that I would be totally understood if people were like, no, there's no way you want to put this on here. But hear me out, because the sequence that pushed this one over the edge for me involves 2 9-year-old boys and this woman. There's just walking the border between getting things shown to us, involving them kind of, how do I say this, canoodling in a sense. They're kind of, almost like she's dancing for them, unrobing, and it's very wildly uncomfortable. I was not feeling that scene at all. And I definitely could understand as the film progressed after how that one kind of sets the tone for the real disturbing stuff, and then we start to kind of go into more of the fetish stuff. This movie in and of itself is very strange. It puts you in a really raw, very odd headspace, and I gotta give it points for that. I think that Salo does a very similar thing, and this one, although, again, not as intense as Salo, I would say just amps up that disturbing nature by going a completely different route with it, by not relying on the violence.
What's with all the poop play, man? God.
There's a little bit towards the end, but it does really try to psychologically mess with you. And the other piece to this, probably the most violent part, is that we do see some actual footage of them kind of uncovering this mass grave and just kind of finding these bodies, and you really get to see a lot of these corpses. And from what I researched, these are real corpses. So yeah, it definitely gets big points for showing that, because it's unsettling. It's gross. It's definitely icky. Yes, they are decayed beyond belief, but you do see some pretty key details that are unsettling and gross all in of themselves. And taking the number 4 spot, we have 2015's Flowers, an abstract, surreal horror film centering around 6 dead women waking up in the crawl space below their killer's house. I'm going to call this one probably the Angel's Melancholy of this list. This is from the director Phil Stevens. Don't really know too much about his work, but again, he is kind of one of these underground, disturbing filmmakers that I guess his name gets thrown around quite a bit. But Flowers is, it's icky. This is definitely another one that's a little bit on the grosser side. The sound design in this movie especially, it's very, like, washed out, and there's a lot of sequences where it's like you're hearing things, but you don't necessarily know what exactly you're hearing. But I don't know, there's something to that effect that just made it really gross. But where this one differs from, like, our last pick is, yes, this does go back to the old ultra-violence, with the women of this serial killer basically being kind of in purgatory within his home, and they kind of get to wake up crawl, try to escape a bathroom, try to figure out their way out of a situation, only to come across what is, in my interpretation, because nothing's really spelled out for you, them witnessing their own deaths.
Do that. Oh, God damn.
And yeah, it gets pretty icky, man. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that will definitely get under your skin, especially the sequence where this lady, she's crawling through this crawl space. There are dead, rotted corpses everywhere. She's basically crawling through vile, getting it all over her hands, into open wounds, and it's just, it's awful. It's a torturous sequence, but it ends with our main killer being presented to us, and yeah, he decides to take a bunch of gore and smear it all over her, and then he's live streaming this to some men in suits, and we have to watch as he decides to take some of that gore and viscera and prime himself, I will say, for what he then does, an act of necrophilia. So good job, movie. Lots of fun stuff there. Didn't definitely need to know about that or see that. I was having fun before, not really, but yeah, no, it's gross. It's definitely one of the bigger scenes in the movie that made me kind of cringe and shudder at it, because it's just all in your face. There's not really left anything up to the imagination. And the movie just kind of progresses after that. We get a lot more stuff with these women kind of having to deal with their open wounds and have to sort through gore and viscera of these rotted corpses, which after a while, it just really gets to you. The next sequence that really hit me in the tummy was just this scene where this girl comes into this room. She finds this lavish feast. There's kind of this funny roast pig sitting there with like a fork, and I think it's like a cleaver, looking like he cooked it all. It's kind of funny in that aspect, but it quickly devolves into disgusting awfulness when she realizes that all the food she's been eating at the table is rotten. You know, definitely an old trope, but the way that they kind of handle it here is she starts throwing up what looks to be the vial of these rotted corpses, worms, everything, and she just keeps spewing, dude, and it's like relentless. They just keep showing it. She keeps spitting it up. She keeps, like, you know, pulling things out eventually of her stomach. It's really gross and icky stuff. And we just kind of spend the rest of the movie bouncing between disgusting things like that and violence against women, violence against other people. It's really just this kind of abstract art piece, very similar to Angel's Melancholy. Again, this movie, it's definitely...
Fucking God, that's so icky. That's so gross.
For a certain type of audience. I'm not that audience. I'm sure many of you are not that audience. But for those of you who are into this, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I know there's something to this effect of just kind of the symbolism. There's kind of this mystery thriller angle they're trying to put on it with this serial killer, kind of hinting towards what his whole thing is with this big group of people who are watching, of course, kind of like in a hostile sense. But yeah, I think like the movie just spends way more time focused on, you know, shocking you and grossing you out, that we don't, of course, like most of these, actually get any real information, any real payoff to this. It's just seriously, we're just trying to gross you out. And then by the end of the film, it ends in a very dark and upsetting way. But I mean, pretty much from what I can gather, there wasn't any other way it was going to end. And taking the number 3 spot, we have 2012's Hate Crime. A Jewish family that just arrived in a new neighborhood are recording their youngest son's birthday celebrations on video when their home is suddenly invaded by a bunch of crystal meth crazed neo-lunatics. Yeah, we're gonna turn the heat up a little bit now with ones that I can't even find any redeeming qualities about, because dude, Hate Crime is intense. Now, this is one of those movies where we get about 2-3 minutes, I think, of actual, like, hey, here's our characters, and then it is just kick in the door, screaming, nonstop, rough, awful human-on-human violence. There's anti-Semitism. There's all kinds of stuff in this flick that's just making me wildly uncomfortable. And it's really kind of, in a way, one of these things where I start watching this movie and I see how low budget it is. I see that it's probably just this group of people here who are here working on it. There's probably not a whole lot of behind the scenes like crew and teams. And, you know, you kind of get this home movie kind of shot for YouTube kind of filmmaking that I was a little bit like, okay, yeah, this is going to be hard to sell me on. But I actually think that's kind of the point for this, because again, this is found footage. This is about a home invasion. And after a while, the bad acting, the way that it's shot, the way it looks, the lack of color grading, all that, it all makes sense. It feels like one of the more surreal, grounded found footage films I've seen ever. And I kind of hate it for that, because there's a lot of awful shit that happens in this movie, as you're expecting it to with the title of Hate Crime. But really, where this film kind of takes it over the top for me, and where it starts to get to this point of just saying, yeah, I'm way past anything redeemable, any point of this being something that I could praise or give any rewatch value to. They do that thing that I really don't care for. And, you know, if you've known my videos, you know what that is. And a big portion of that is this movie. It happens for quite a while, and it involves a lot of essay for the mom. But then they decide to do the inner familial canoodling that I don't like. They force this boy to basically interact, do the deed with his mother.
Oh, no. Come on, bro. Don't do that shit. What is it with this? This is like the trope.
And it's really, really gross. When I read the descriptions of this, when I was teeing up these movies, it said that a portion of this was off screen, and it's just a minor portion, because, yeah, you get to see a lot of it, and it's unsettling, it's awful, and it happens just after they burn the bad guys from World War II symbol, the one that everybody knows, onto this kid's face. And it's brutal. It's pure brutality, this movie through and through. You watch these men come in here and just absolutely wreak havoc on this family, and nothing about it feels like, you know, a movie. Like, there's maybe one sequence where it kind of feels movie-ish, but even then it's so quick and it happens so fast to where it's like we're back in the control of these bad guys that you can't you can't really suspend your disbelief too hard. And I mean, you got to give them some props for that, for selling it really well. I know some people might find this to be just goofy through and through. I guess it just kind of depends on how you're watching this and kind of the mindset you go into it with, because I found this to be extremely disturbing. This is one of those home invasion movies that I didn't know about before I started researching this, and now when I talk about really ultra disturbing, intense home invasion movies, this will certainly be up on that list.
That movie was tough. That's I think the added element of the racism, the anti-Semitism, definitely adds another level to that. But that's a weird one. That feels very like goofy at the start, but I mean, it's just so unforgiving and so unrelenting with how like continuous it is.
They basically start whittling down the family member by member, doing various different kinds of tortures, lots of fighting, punching, shooting, and it all kind of comes down to them pretty much just getting completely away with it. And then it has this big text thing at the end just talking about, you know, how many hate crimes and awful home invasion things happen in the U.S. And I get what they're trying to say, but by then it's just, you're so kind of numbed by the experience that I don't know if this necessarily was the appropriate place to kind of spell that message out. Yeah, hate crimes, it's one where it's like 1 to 2 minutes of character stuff, and then boom, it does not let up until the final moments. And even then, you're just so shook, you're so like calloused by the end of this thing that you're just like, man, just I need to go take a break. I need to go smoke a cigarette, hug my son, do something positive in my life, because this isn't a very long movie, but it's an effective one, and it's one I won't soon forget. Now moving into the number 2 spot, we have 2007's Snuff 102. A young reporter fascinated by the urban legend of snuff movies gets more than she bargained for when her deep research begins. Boy, Snuff 102. I was not looking forward to watching this movie. I had heard a lot about this even before I started doing these lists, and it definitely lives up to a lot of what I heard. This is a really gross, tough movie to watch. Oh, God damn, dude. Ugh. This movie is purely sadistic, very much emulating what a lot of people presume are snuff films in real life, because this movie is nothing but trying to get you in the mindset of, this is going to leave a mark on you. This is going to scar you. And I wholly believe that that's what this movie did for me. There's a lot of really subconscious kind of ways the movie tries to play with you a little bit. Part of that is that, yes, there are a couple of sequences, mostly medical procedures, and of course, the one that I don't know what it is about people and pigs in these movies, man, but we do have to unfortunately witness a pig being slaughtered, but it just seems like in a very I don't know how they slaughter pigs nowadays, but they definitely, I don't think, do this anymore, because they really go for it, and it's real and unfortunate. And again, the animal violence thing is something that I cannot get past when it comes to this stuff. It's awful. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the movie, granted it being simulated, it still doesn't shy away from some of the hard stuff. I mean, we deal with a lot of essay stuff here. We're basically watching this reporter who's researching this, serial killer who makes these snuff films. And, she's kind of going through trying to piece together maybe just a little bit to understand his psyche and all this, and then make this article trying to kind of oust him. And as the film goes on, we get this twist of sorts where we find out that kind of her editor that she's talking with ends up being the artist, the snuff film artist. And yeah, it really kind of takes a different turn where, as we're going through the movie, it's broken up in these different sections between her talking to her editor, her researching, and her being a part of the next snuff movie. She is Snuff Victim 102. And the way they bounce back and forth here between that and actually showing you some real medical stuff again, violence, it can be a bit of a chore to watch. Now, this one, this is the longest movie on this list. It's an hour and 45 minutes. And, again, I have to give them at least a little bit of points for trying to weave some kind of a story in here. It's not very good. It has some interesting ideas, but they could have taken this and actually tried to really make us care about the character at least, but I know that's not what we were intending to do. What's with all the pissing and shitting in these movies, dude? Jesus. As far as the really rough stuff goes, we have to watch a semi-conscious woman be basically assaulted, in her nether regions with a knife. That's very upfront. That's very in your face, and it's awful. We have to watch women get brutalized as it goes with these movies, essay, things like that. There's another one where a lady, and I don't know which victim or what this is, but it's tough. We watch him take a nail and hammer it into this woman's nipple, and it sucks. I hate it. I did not like it. It feels very real at times, and I know that's what they're going for, but I was not pleased by that. Nobody should be. Either way, this movie gets even worse when we get to this point where our killer has a pregnant woman, and he basically beats the shit out of her. He puts a bag over her head, suffocates her, stomps on her head, and then proceeds to stomp on her pregnant belly until the ejects itself, and then he ends up just the in front of us and on screen and in front of our other victims. It's a lot. Again, this movie is very, very up there for me as far as some of the more disturbing shit that I've seen. It's living up to the name. I know that this one is going to be one that people are expecting me to talk about at some point, and I think the only positive side is that I've gotten this out. I've gotten this off because I can't really find any redeeming qualities to this movie, and it's something that definitely, like the last list, is going to leave some marks. It's going to be something that I don't ever want to experience this movie again. And taking my number one spot, the film that I can say without a shadow of a doubt is more disturbing than Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom, we have to go with 2000's Subconscious Cruelty, an anthology of horror consisting of 4 segments, all themed around gory subject matter. This movie definitely intrigued me from the onset of watching it. I am a big fan of anthologies, and I just was curious to see what kind of like a really disturbing anthology would be. And I will admit, the first segment, when I watched this, I was like, okay, this probably won't make my number one or even on the list, just because it's one of those things where it's like you're just watching, you're listening to voiceover. This woman, it's called ovarian eyeball, basically just gets an eyeball removed from her belly, supposedly her uterus area. And that's really all it is. It's just kind of this slow, kind of maligning, drawn out thing, but it's not very long. Then we got to human larvae, and that's when everything flipped up, because this movie is insane. I hate it. I hate it, and now we have to talk about it. So, human larvae is about a brother who's obsessed with his sister. He wants to sleep with her, he wants to procreate with her, and he's obsessed with her. He gets upset when his sister eventually finds a husband and starts moving on with her life and wants to, just be normal, just have a kid, hang out. And he ends up staying in her life and trying to keep things normal, trying to move past it, I guess, as he narrates in his brain, but he just can't seem to get it. He keeps having these visions of her bleeding from her area as he's trying to fornicate with her, and it all kind of crescendos in this sequence where she's giving birth. And unfortunately, her brother is there. And yeah, he starts helping her give birth. He's describing it in a very odd way. I did not like that. But really, where this film peaks and where it jumps off the edge for me, man, is it the baby is being born and you're watching it, which is normal. We've seen that if you're a parent. But the brother takes a scalpel and just offs the baby right there, mid-birth, in the birth canal. I didn't fuck with that at all. Oh, no. That's awful. That's deplorable. Jesus Christ. Oh my. Ah. Yes. So he does that. He holds it up in front of his sister's face, basically spraying her with blood, making her watch him just desecrate this little baby corpse. And then it cuts to her being basically dead. He props the baby up next to her, and pretty much he just kind of goes off and sits on his own, and then eventually he decides, I'm gonna fool around with her. But then he's upset because it's been like, I think, a few days at this point, and she's a corpse, and he doesn't like it. And that's where it ends. It's so unabashedly cruel and upsetting, and truly something I've never seen before and don't plan on watching again. But we get a little bit of a break into the next piece of the anthology here with Rebirth, which is just a bunch of naked people basically rolling around in the grass, just trying to kind of, I guess, be one with the earth, be one with Mother Nature. It's artsy, it's interesting, not much there to really talk about personally. But the last two, we have Right Brain and Martyrdom. Yeah, Right Brain, that's another one. These are kind of like, you know, they kind of alternate. They give you a break, and then they hit you with something hard, a break, and then they hit you with something hard. Because Right Brain is basically about this dude who's like addicted to, you see him going through his life and just what an unfulfilling, you know, bland life he lives. It all goes wrong when he wakes up one night after you watch him, you know, canoodle himself for a good majority of watching this video of people stuff. It's, you know, he's just doing it. You have to watch it. It's what it is. They don't shy away from it. But he wakes up tied to a table, and he ends up having fish hooks put into his meat, his schmeat. And yeah, it's something, man. They just start pulling and ripping, and you just see this man's schmeat just rip apart. It just fucking rips apart.
Why did we do that?
And it's awful. And I don't know why. I don't know why this is happening. There's no context, of course. And then the guy takes the dude's crucifix off his neck, the dude who's putting him through this torture, and he melts it down and then puts it in all these needles, I guess, and then starts jamming it into his brain. And then we move on almost into, I guess, it just kind of moves right into the last one. This one gets really religious and really strange. We see a similar character who looks like Jesus. He's standing outside of a church, basically trying to get in. He's covered in blood, standard Jesus, iconography. And he gets brought into this church. There's these women, they're like demonic, I guess. And they basically just throw him on the ground, take his clothes off, and then they start fornicating with him, but then also eating him. So yeah, it turns into this kind of like sex cannibal kind of thing. And yeah, it's pretty weird. It's interesting. It's not, again, the most intense. I definitely want to give that to Human Larvae and Right Brain for that, but it's definitely some imagery to leave off on. They don't shy away from the gore. It's in your face. You watch somebody get disemboweled. And I think the kicker for this is the last piece of this is they shove a large stick up the dude's butt. Very, very strange way to end that film. Very, very odd. Very, very unsettling. And yeah, I don't know, man. This movie is something else. This movie truly is awful. And I think that those two shorts I talked about, there's so much graphic detail that you get to absorb from that, and it's just unforgiving to a certain point. And I don't know. In my heart of hearts, I can say that Snuff 102 and this could be interchangeable in some aspects for having some similar kind of, topics. But for me overall, this is just, this one just took the cake. And there you have it, folks. We've done it. We've made it to the end of my 5 films that are more disturbing than Salo. Yeah, I did have a really tough time with this one. Again, I had to watch a couple of extra movies that just didn't quite make the cut, but they were pretty messed up, pretty gross. So put myself through a lot of extra stuff. I hope you enjoyed the little intercuts. If they worked, I hope I put them in right. I haven't edited this yet, obviously. But I think that that's going to be a lot of fun for you guys. I think it can add a little bit of spice to these. Because yeah, I mean, I did it a little bit healthier this time. I didn't just marathon these movies like I did with the last one. So this one, I can say I did better with than the last one, but I still I don't I didn't like it. I still didn't like it. I still there's no getting around that. I don't think I'm gonna like continuing to do this other than the joy and the awesome comments and wonderful things that you guys get and take away from it. That's really what makes this whole thing worth it for me, is the fact that you guys like the content, you support the content, and you know what, that means the world. I appreciate it. You guys were so awesome on the last video with all of your comments and all the reaction videos and stuff I saw to it. Really warms my heart. So as long as you guys keep wanting it, I will keep doing it. I've got a nice little system going now. So overall, I hope this can be pretty beneficial and fun. So yeah, this was a tough one. The next one will be pretty interesting. I wanted to kind of call upon you guys. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Hit this video with a like to save us from the algorithm gods. And yeah, if you want to help me out, I'd like to know what you guys would like to see next. Do you want to see me talk about 5 films more disturbing than August Underground? Or do you want to see me talk about 5 films that are more disturbing than The Human Centipede? So those are where we're going right now with those. So definitely let me know. The next one will be out in a couple of weeks. Until then, we have a lot of great videos up on the channel already, as well as more to come. As usual, I will do a couple of fun ones in between these awful, disgusting ones. And yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up here for me. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it all. And yeah, I guess that's gonna wrap it up. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell, and remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.